You remember that one day a lady came to us. She was from another church, not ours, but she said, "Pastor, I have a neighbor who is not a believer, but she has heard the testimonies of people healed here in your church, and she has so much faith that God wants to use the Lord in her life to heal her, but she is not in a position to come. Could you go there?" I said, "Sure, we will schedule a time for the visit. You accompany us. We will go there as a team and we will pray with this woman, and you can tell her that I also have faith that Jesus will do something for her." I just forgot to ask what was wrong with her. When I got there, I apologized. What was it that the woman could not go to church? She was paralyzed from the neck down. At first I swallowed hard because we have a habit of thinking that there are little miracles and big miracles, and I thought, this is going to be a big miracle, but until then I hadn't understood it that much. I was a little scared, but I had already seen God do extraordinary things, and I struggled with my inclination and disbelief. I said, "God is going to do it," and I started to preach to her about who Jesus is, that he hasn't changed, that he's still the same, that he does the same things he did, right? And that she needed to believe in him, that the source was Jesus and not us. She signaled that she understood, and I said, "We're going to pray with you." I did everything I knew. I put my hands together, put on a party face, prayed loudly, stood up, and shouted. When I finished praying, I looked at her and said, "Did you feel anything?" She said, "No, nothing." When she said nothing, I began the process of inner implosion, right? And I think she realized that the feeling I had was that she wanted to motivate me. She said, "But as you said before, faith does not depend on feelings, so I don't need to feel, I just need to believe." She said, "It may not have happened now, but suddenly tomorrow I'll wake up and discover that I'm moving." And I thought, now the woman is preaching faith to me. But I was so upset that I didn't even finish preaching the gospel to her. I left, and on the way I started fighting with God. I said, "I want you to know that I'm on strike. I don't pray for the sick anymore." Quote, I said, "I never know when you're in a good mood, when you're not, when you're going to do something, when you don't." I said, "The most interesting thing had to be you. People, you have no idea what that crisis was like. That black hole that started sucking me into discouragement. It was a terrible thing." The next day, I went to church early in the morning to pray, because I was the pastor of the church who had called me to pray. But after the prayer time, I went to the office, and who showed up? That sister who had taken me to pray with the neighbor. When she arrived, I just thought, "Are you here again or not?" She said, "Pastor, it's good that you're here so early, because I brought someone who wants to see you." Just imagine, she got me hooked up with a skeptic. "Can I call the person?" Quote, I said, "Sure," and she signed, "Who walks into the room alone without anyone's help." The woman I had prayed for, and I couldn't even believe it. I even thought if she didn't have a twin sister, if they weren't trolling me. You can see the level of faith I had. Then I said, "What happened?" She said, "Pastor, do you remember when you asked if I was feeling anything?" I said no, but that maybe I would wake up moving. Quote, I said, "That's exactly what happened today. The moment I opened my eyes, I made a stretching movement. I saw that I was moving. I saw that I was moving everything." She said, "It was giving me joy." I started to thank God, and the first thing I decided was, I'm going to tell everyone what happened. And when I said that, I remembered that yesterday when you were leaving, I said, "And when I get up, are you the first person I'm going to look for to tell?" Quote, she said, "I heard a voice talking to me and I remember the conversation. Remember that you said that the first person you were going to tell is the man of God? Look for the man of God and don't just tell him what happened to you. Tell him not to stop. Tell him not to lose heart. Remind him that I have placed in his hands the gift of wonders.